Sean and Madonna had just got married, and there was like media frenzy, boats with telephoto lenses, and so there was this heightened sense of paparazzi.
My understanding is that Sean didn't want to do it.
Please, dear friend, we must talk at
Yeah,
once.
talk to her. I'm going to breakfast.
But then once that Madonna read it, she was interested. I think she wanted to do the missionary.
I refuse to be put under obligation.
The crew was about to mutiny because it was a lot of production problems due to personality conflicts, so to speak.
Dare you talk to Megan like that?
So I know it was very wild over there, you know. I mean, if you went back and found a bunch of the old tabloids, you would find some interesting stuff.
I think you've just witnessed a resurrection.
You know, excited. We were, you know, just completely, you know, over the moon about it all. And then, you know, a year later when the reviews came out, we're like, ugh.
Maybe time has passed and some stories can be told, you know, without the kind of snippy gossip.
You deceitful, jelly-spine, backstabbing bastard!
I had worked with John Cohn. He was a writer and a producer who had grew up here but spent most of his time in England. And then when he left EMI and went out on his own, he got some people to back him for about 3 different properties, and one of them was the novel that became Shanghai Surprise, and so he hired me to write that.
I think we've found our man.
He very much saw it as trying to combine like the Romancing the Stone, which had just been successful, this idea of this kind of caper romance, with sort of the spirit, old-fashioned spirit of, you know, movies from like the early 50s, you know, kind of romances. John thought that Faraday's Flowers, even though it was unpublished, had probably been to every studio because people were interested in Tony Kenrick's books at that time. And he felt that people would just go to F in the folder of coverage and find Faraday's Flowers. It was way before computers, you know. It was like 85 probably when it was being written. And so he felt that they would just go to the files and they'd find that someone had read it at some point and had rejected it. So he thought the way around that was to change the title. At some point, it went over to CAA, and CAA decided they wanted to package it. And Jim Goddard was one of their directors, and he was friends with the people that ran Handmade. And so he talked Handmade into getting involved, and once Handmade said that they would be involved in the financing, and, you know, that would cut down MGM's costs and cut down their risk, then MGM came back in and said, okay, then we'll go with him.
Jogo awaits you.
Hey, big stick. Jogo on pins and needles.
When it finally came time to cast, they had me audition for 2 roles, Jogo and Megan.
You could see the minute he came in, he wanted to be that character, and he was that character, and he was able to kind of capture that spirit.
Jim Goddard was the director, and Sean was there at the auditions also. So it's like I felt, well, okay, I'm going to have to audition for 2 people, the director and, of course, Sean, who probably had approval, yay or nay.
The Jogo character, we really amplified his character, and we really kind of pumped that character up.
And the part I eventually got was Jogo, who was this reprobate black marketeer, lover of baseball.
Jogo a regular Dizzy Dean, huh?
If he can be of help, we'll use the devil himself.
It was a very kind of bare-bones production because the streets in Asia are not big, so they can accompany, they call them caravans instead of like Winnebagos at that time. So they only had these small little mini trailers, but just one for Sean and one for Madonna. And all the rest of us actors, they would find somebody's apartment or here you got a dress. And after a certain point you went, you know, guys, this is not very comfortable.
I do not accept it! I do not accept it!
And you're dealing with little spontaneous rioting because certain Tong members, it's their territory, they want to be paid off a little bit. We shot part of it in Hong Kong. And Hong Kong stood in for 1937 Shanghai. And so some of those, like when you're in that slum area called Mongok, there would be people in the playgrounds. And I said, why are they 4 o'clock in the morning with their kids? This is like flex time. There's not much space, so families share apartments. So while people are working, the other family is sleeping, and then they go to work, and then they go back.
I beg your pardon?
We were so isolated at the time, there was no such thing as CNN, headline news, or anything like that. In fact, one day, I was get picked up. So I walked down the lobby and I just stopped and I looked at the newsstand. It had a picture with the front page of the Challenger exploding. You know, exploded. I went, what the hell? And I saw Sean. I said, Sean, hey, the space shuttle blew up. Really? And of course, the crew's, yeah, yank thing. Yeah, kind of blew up, eh? Kind of people, pieces, yeah. Right. All right, let's go to work. You know, that kind of a thing. So like, then you really felt kind of isolated, you know, in the whole thing. George Harrison was our executive producer, handmade films, you know. So one day, I'm on the set with the wall at the beach, and you see this figure walking by going, hello, Clyde, you're very funny, the dailies are great. And I'm saying to myself, holy shit, that's George Harrison, the Beatle.
Thank God you're all right. Mr. Kronk and I have been worried sick about you.
I found George Harrison to be very accessible, very kind of low-keyed and a regular kind of guy who got his kicks, his giggles, by inserting himself in scenes. So he was in Shanghai Surprise, he played the guitar in the nightclub band.
I remember he asked Sean Penn why he had so much trouble with the media, and Sean Penn started going on about the media, and then he realized he was talking to the guy who was at the center of Beatlemania.
Another time we were set up for a shot with the car, and I'm with Sean. I'm doing a scene with him. And all of a sudden, Sean stops. I said, what's the matter? And he looked out to the distance. There was this trees, bushes. And he says, photographer. I said, what? And everybody's going, what? In the distance, you see one of the telephoto lenses come out of there. And everybody's going, wow, what a fantastic, what eyesight and everything. But it was almost at the same time, about a beat or two after, everybody said, wow, that's great, because Guy went out, security went out to deal with the photographer. And almost the same time, there was an unstated thing. It's like, wait a minute. If he was looking for the camera, then he must not have been in the scene.
Yeah, you know when the police want to see me. You know where to get insurance. You know who's who. Probably know how many damn freckles I have on my ass.
The Shanghai Surprise basically is a money belt. And the money belt really had like a mini bomb, hence Shanghai Surprise. There was one scene where Megan has it, and then he's about to do it, and I just fall down, and everybody's ready to jump. Anyway, Sean was willing. You know, Sean's kind of actor. Yeah, okay, I'll jump into the water. And Madonna said, oh, I don't know, it's wet, you know. So we stopped, and where we shot was a platform, and they had a long, long pier to the shore. And we're waiting, and you see these poor guys with these hand dolly trucks with boxes of Evian water so that they could wet Madonna down, so that she could be wet. Meanwhile, Sean just jumped into the water and climbed out. And then she had to smoke, but she wanted Marlboros, but they were going, darling, they didn't have pre-war filters. It was like Lucky Strike greens, no filters at all. So if you take a look at the movie and you see her smoke, it's kind of not authentic, because she's smoking Marlboros right there. Or makeup we put on for 2 hours, and then the crew would see the makeup being taken off that takes 2 hours to put on at lunchtime, knowing full well that even after lunch there's another 2 hours, so there's not much going to get done. And at that certain point, there was going to be a mutiny, and the crew was ready to quit, so George flew in from London.
You must think we're lunatics.
Lunatics? You are worse than lunatics.
He said, you know, crew's very unhappy. What's going on? And a certain person said, well, I'll throw a party then. Don't think it's a good idea. They kind of hate you. I don't think anybody would come to it. But somehow, anyway, it all got resolved. And we were getting close to the time that they had, schedule-wise, they had to be back in England. And literally, towards the last day of shooting, they shot, and as soon as the last cut, people were in the cabs headed for Kai-Tak Airport because they had to make the plane trip to Dubai and then to London.
I'm Mr. Lazy. I've messed up everything.
We got Sean, we got George Harrison. I got to be kicked in the balls by Madonna, you know, towards the end, sort of like claim to fame. And it was like, wardrobe, props, make sure I got this cup. Give me a double cup, please.
How's that for a ball game, you little creep?
Jim would go, okay, cut, print. And then he'd give me a look like, once more. And I just go, okay, fine. At a certain point, you sort of like, the one thing I learned on a Frankenheimer set years ago in Kyoto was that you learn not to align yourself with different camps, so to speak, because in the course of the shoot, camps and things change. It's almost like the Middle East in a way. So it's always preferable not to be identified too closely to any one camp, lest one will be shot in the crossfire, so to speak.
It's time to cockle with sharks.
If I were you, I would wave and blow him a big kiss.
I will not. Evil, horrible man.
The basic premise of a shoot is that you don't know anybody, you wind up becoming a community, and everybody says, hey, give me your number, and da-da-da-da-da, and we'll keep in touch, and you never do. And the community busts up. It's like the circus comes to town, and the circus leaves. Now, then you move on. And it's kind of a nomadic kind of life. It's not there's no certainty there, but so one has to remember, I've learned, it took me a long time to learn that it's basically, it's about those moments, and you never know when it's going to come back to bite you or have an opportunity to talk, and you're going, wow, they want to do a super edition of DVD of Shanghai Surprise? You know, that's a surprise.